So, another video of just me ranting about stuff. I'll show you. It's actually a nice location. I think this looks very surreal up here. And this is on the front camera, so I don't know if you can see it properly, but it almost looks like a mission from, I don't know, Fallout or Vegas 2. It's pretty cool. And actually the river is very fast flowing here. But I've had a shit time here. It's been terrible, and the usual suspects are the problem. It's usually not the Chinese Han. And I interchange between Han Chinese and Chinese. When I say Han, it's because some people, and I shouldn't really change my behaviour based on what others think, but some people are like, but China has lots of different ethnic groups. No, let's be honest, the real Chinese are Han Chinese. That's what I see as Chinese. All the other groups, I name them by what they are. Which you can't really win, because if I do that, name them by what they are, then people will be like, no, you're right, you know, this is like an oppressed people in China and they're their own culture and they should have their own name. But if you say it the other way, like, no, actually, I don't think they're Chinese, you know, I don't think they're individuals, so I think they're all Chinese. People are like, well, why aren't you including them? You see, you really can't win with the liberals. I hate them. I hate liberals. But anyway, I'm currently being harassed by kids on little motos, which is kind of annoying. And you know who I'm going to blame? They're probably Uyghurs or Kazakhs. And these are the bane of my troubles here in Xinjiang. It's never the real Chinese that cause a problem, ever, for me. Speaking from experience, extensive experience, I think this is my 9th time in China, and each time has been, generally except one, a prolonged period. The max usually, literally like the max amount of time I'm allowed. And every single day I have a problem with the Uyghurs, sometimes the Kazakhs, and the kids are back again. And they're for sure Kazakh, because I just saw them. And never have I had a problem with the Han Chinese. And today was fucking ridiculous. Like, oh god, wind here. Today was fucking ridiculous, right? And I feel like my stories are always really negative, but they're not. I post loads of like scenes of landscapes and stuff. It's just, I see the world, everything is political, whether you want it to be or not. And believe me, I do not want to be criticising all the time or angry about certain things all the time. But I am, because I have principles. And when people think that the world is all lovey-dovey and they just want to get along, I'll tell you what they are. They're cowards and they're weak and they're liars more than anything, because the world isn't perfect, and if you want to achieve anything in life, you have to challenge things. No good has ever come from sitting back, as sort of corny and cheesy and atypical as it might sound, and just allowing everything else to just get along, because everything else doesn't get along. If people want the mentality of stepping back and allowing others to do things, then unfortunately evil prevails. And I'll give you an example. So today has been crazy. I've had a list of things to do for a very, very long time in my life, and most of my list is challenging corruption, mistakes, errors. You know, when you travel as much as I do and you're making transactions in foreign countries, all kinds of things happen. Your cards get swallowed by ATMs charge you and then don't pay the money out. You know, you get overcharged by just retailers or whatever because you're foreign. So unfortunately I have to spend quite a bit of time in my life filing chargebacks, which is just you go to your bank, whatever app it is or whatever high street, and you fill out a form, and then you provide the evidence for why you shouldn't have been charged X amount of money, right? It's one example of many things I do. Often there's so much corruption that I'm not even able to challenge things, because it's only really within the financial remit in the United Kingdom that you can basically get your money back. And if you don't know about that, then you should, because it's very, very easy to do, generally speaking. But if it's a retailer, you know, something to do with travel and hospitality, it's a hotel or things like that, it's impossible, basically. Or fucking kids have stopped now. So what I was saying is, so I spent the morning basically getting scammed on every level. Hotels.com, which is an Expedia group, has an error with one of my bookings, which has free cancellation till September, so I can't cancel it. When you can't cancel it, it says there's been an error. and it puts you through to an automated system which says, yes, there has been an error, we will try and cancel it now. That obviously fails. Then it goes through to a human, and I say human because it's an Egyptian in this case for Hotels.com, and they're basically like Indians, and they are just liars. They're born liars. Their entire culture is orientated around lying. And there's plenty of humorous, comedic skits on this sort of thing, actually. There's a very famous American Indian comic, stand-up comic, who does a skit on when you ask an Arab for directions, if they don't know, they will lie to you and pretend they do know, because there's this sort of weakness in their persona. They see it as being such a masculine culture, Arabic Islamic culture. It's seen as like a failure if you are unable to answer a question, which is so ridiculous because we all don't know most things in the world. So his skit is like, he asks for directions in this shopping mall, and the Arab guy is like, yes, you want to take a left here and then take a right here and then go up here and then down here and then you'll find the place. But he just makes the whole thing up. And that translates to when you have a customer issue, you go through these applications, and of course they're offloading responsibility to the cheapest places in the world. But more than that, and I believe this genuinely from probably more experience than anyone else in the world with respect to this, I have 3 dozen fintech apps, banking apps, and I use them all every single day for different reasons. Some have higher amount of cashback available for certain companies like Hotels.com or Trip.com. Klarna, for example, would give me like a 7.5% cashback or a 5% cashback for Hotels.com. And then another company might give me more. Other companies have fees in certain countries for ATM withdrawals. Others don't. Some use Visa, some use MasterCard. Some have better apps. Just there's so many reasons why I am very experienced with this. And even with that experience every day, I'm surprised by how much corruption there is, really, and just how insidious the system is. So I spent today trying to get a refund for something which should be instantaneous, which has free cancellation. It went to a human, and I say human because they're just robots and they're liars more than being robotic. It's not about being robotic and being paid the minimum wage and scripting. It's just about being unhelpful. And someone might say, like, okay, so if you're getting paid like a tiny amount of money for sitting in a call center today, perhaps you would be unhelpful. But that's got nothing to do with it. I deal with call center people every single day, and they're not all unhelpful. And by being unhelpful and being a useless cunt, where is that going to get you in life? If you're good at your job, you're bettering yourself. No matter how much you're being pushed down, how little you might be being paid, who you're betraying in this situation is yourself by just being outwardly incompetent and lazy. What benefit is that going to have on your character? So I always request, if I get a call center and it's someone in Eastern Europe, 100% helpful. If it goes to Northern Ireland or somewhere in the UK and they're actually British, they're usually pretty helpful. Not always, but usually. Philippines also pretty helpful. There's certain countries that are good, just generally what they do. And the Han Chinese are exceptional with just everything. I mean, I want to give you an example here. Hopefully an ant doesn't crawl into my coffee, which is there. I'll give you an example. I really like Han Chinese people, and I'm not just saying this because I'm in China. I don't care about criticising anyone, as well as you all know. So when you look up here and you see just the beauty of this park, right? So you see all just the cleanliness and the general organisation. You've got the river, you've got the bridge, all of this infrastructure that you see. And in particular in China, the landscaping is phenomenal. Do you know who did all of this? Han Chinese did it. So we're in Xinjiang now. We're in a Uyghur place in the north on the Mongolian border in the Altai prefecture. And it's no different here to anywhere else. Everywhere you go in China, there is a huge emphasis on work. And yes, people are workaholics, and I don't think people should work as much, but I can still respect the fact that they do that. And all of the nice things that you see would not exist at all, if the Chinese weren't here. If this was a Uyghur place, and I've seen their original settlements pre-demolition, because yes, they're all being demolished by the Han Chinese for sure, and you see their original living conditions exampled in their sort of home countries, if you want to call it that, or places that are actual independent countries that are representing that particular culture. So you can go to Pakistan, you can go to Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. Uyghurs aren't technically Kazakh, so we'll leave them out. They're more sort of Tajik and northern Pakistan, sort of a mix of that sort of culture. You have autonomous regions within Xinjiang for Kazakhs and actually for Kyrgyz as well. But the general sort of Uyghur culture, given that Uyghur language comes from Farsi and Tajik comes from Farsi, is basically sort of Iran, Turkmenistan and Tajikistan, both aesthetically and culturally. And Tajikistan is the worst country in Central Asia, without a doubt. And I'm not saying it's the worst place in the world, but it's not a great place, to be honest, when you compare people's sense of morality, people's general behaviour, just etiquette, all-round things. It's just not great on every scale. And that's what Uyghur culture is, sizably. Obviously, there's inbreeding, and I say inbreeding like it's a negative, there's nothing wrong with obviously breeding with other cultures. But there's been a lot of, ethnic change over the years, so not everyone is sort of like pure Uyghur. But my point was, when you see sort of like the little libtards, the hypocritical middle-class white kids whose mummy and daddy work for a fucking oil company exploiting the world, send them to a private school to study social anthropology or history of art, and then they go traipsing around London into fancy bars wearing £150 jeans and fucking 200 quid limited edition t-shirts on daddy's credit card, and telling us all that there's this problem in Xinjiang, or there's this problem in East Timor, or there's this persecution of black people wherever it is in the world, because that's always trendy. And they've never been here, they never experienced it for themselves, and they don't have the ability to contextualize and compare. Consequently, what would it be like if all of this infrastructure, which by the way transitions into really important core things in any culture, like healthcare and schooling, it's not just fancy buildings and nice plants, none of that would exist without the Han Chinese. Do you understand that? None of it would exist. Nothing in the world is perfect. And the thing that really bothers me, and having experienced this firsthand in so many places, I've been kidnapped, I've been beaten, I've been attacked in so many awful ways you couldn't even imagine, nearly been killed, got poisoned in Egypt with strychnine, had to get resuscitated. So all the good gnarly stuff, I have experience with this. And the hypocritical nature, the core hypocrisy here, is the fact that in the UK, more people get arrested for hate crime. And that's not a statistic. I've been detained and taken off a plane, and I've said that a few times in previous videos because it's relatively recent. But I have an understanding of how things work, because going back to the initial point, and this isn't a rant, and it isn't supposed to be negative, it's supposed to be sort of educational. Going back to the original point, when you don't stand up for anything in your life, you don't know what it's like when you do. Okay, and the core value that I've held for a long time, and it's a sort of an addiction, and it's sort of is my character. I probably couldn't even go back on it if I wanted to. And believe me, I waste a lot of time in my life. When I get scammed for £1 here or 10p there, I'll spend 2 hours formulating a chargeback for 10 pence, and that's not an exaggeration. I do that because I know that if you lower your standards in life, it is a very fast, rapid decline to the base, to the bottom. So essentially. Hello. So essentially the issue is it's about retaining a set of standards for as much as possible, for as long as possible, and that is what builds your character. So yeah, my point is, I can't even remember now, I've lost my thread because I keep getting encircled by kids on mopeds. But yeah, my point is, middle class little sort of, wanky kids, and don't worry, they're not just all Caucasian, and I hate using the word white or privilege, believe me, they exist everywhere in the world, I can promise you that. You go to Kazakhstan, you find the rich kids of Atral, many of whom live in Almaty, being just as wanky, with their little LGBT flags everywhere. You'll see it in Belgrade in Serbia, you'll see it in Rio, you'll see it everywhere in the world. It's the dumbing down of society through being comfortable, and money and wealth generally make people too comfortable, and it is that comfort that lowers their standards to the point where they lose their survival instinct and they lose their ability to critically assess what is happening in the world and to formulate a logical truth, or as close to a logical truth from such. So my point is, to conclude, there we go, I'll leave it there.